Welcome to the Becoming a Streamer podcast by Pipeline, where we interview your favorite streamers and learn about their journey to where they are today. I'm your host and co-founder of Pipeline, Snoopy. We kick off the series with a very special guest, Pipeline co-founder and my good friend, StoneMountain64. He's been in the game for 8 years, doing it part-time in college to now doing it full-time with a baby on the way. Over the years, his fans have consumed over 2 billion minutes of content, and his videos have over 600 million views. He totals over 3.5 million followers, runs 2 YouTube channels with several videos a week, and live streams almost every day. This guy is a content machine. He was a pioneer of Facebook gaming, nominated for the Streamer of the Year at the 2018 Esports Awards, and recently joined the Forbes 30 Under 30 class of 2020. You can find him online as StoneMountain64 across all platforms. So without further ado, let's dive in. Hey, huge thanks for joining us, David. We've been talking about doing this for a while, and I've known you for years, but this is the first time I've actually got a chance to sit down and ask you what it was like as you became a full-time content creator. So thanks for coming on.
Dude, I'm really happy that we're doing this. And this is something that, I've always talked about bits and pieces of stuff, but I think it's going to be good to kind of, just chat about some of the origins a bit and how some of this stuff kind of came together.
Sweet. So before we get too deep into it, I think it'd be good to kind of set context and give people a little bit of information. So where are you at today? What platforms are you on? What's your follower count? What games are you playing? Just kind of set the stage a little bit for everyone. Where are you at now?
I've been doing this for a long time. Right now, I am kind of all over the place. So I stream every day over on Facebook. Got my audience up to over 1.5 million there on YouTube. Getting close to about 2 million. I do videos on a main channel there, StoneMountain64, as well as I have a second channel, Stone Mountain Plays, which is a lot more of my live stream content, a lot of stuff that I'm doing there. And then I've got kind of Instagram, Twitter, and that's kind of my overall. I kind of do some clips and different things there too, but it's a lot around online multiplayer shooters and games around that. I try and branch out from there, and right now, really where I'm at is kind of trying to drive things more along the lines of even the journey of gaming through myself, more so than a lot of tips and other things that I used to do a lot more of. I still try and dabble into some of that and, get some stuff going, depending on really what the audience wants to see. But I've been really trying to, kind of base it more around where I'm coming from, my content, and kind of me going through a lot of it.
Sweet. Just from a volume perspective, how much are you streaming each week?
Yeah, so right now I stream about 4 hours a day, 4 to 5 hours a day for 6 days a week. I usually do a little shorter on Saturday, but my big focus is kind of Monday to Friday, which I think is about 80 to 100 hours a month or so.
Yeah. And you're also keeping up a YouTube channel on top of that. How many videos are you doing a week?
Yeah, so then videos, I try and do daily on my second channel, and then I'll do usually 2 to 3 videos on my main StoneMountain64 channel. So it's kind of a balance. And what's really helped me too is I do have an editing team that helps me with doing a lot of the process for it. But on top of that, I'm trying to aim for daily Instagram posts as well. And just trying to really fan out as much as I can. But yeah, that's the big thing. And the individual piece of content that I guess is really outside of my streams that I still do work on every week is I do World's Best Clip of the Week every single Monday, top 10 plays. People send in their clips from literally all around the world. It's something I've been doing for, 3 or 4 years. We're at 320 episodes on the main show, and then I have a bonus episode show, which I try and do that. My goal actually into 2020 is to try and start doing 2 of those a week, my main, and then also do my bonus, because it's just a great show, and I love looking at everybody's clips. It's kind of how all that started, but that's something that's kind of separate and takes a little bit more time because it's not necessarily from my stream.
Sweet. I love that balance. It's just a lot of content going out. Jumping into a little bit before this whole crazy content journey started and you were doing, 150 hours a month of content creation. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background? Where did you grow up? How did you get into content creation?
Yeah, I'm originally from Southern California. I grew up there. I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, which was work more in business and Finance really is kind of where I was kind of leaning more towards. I talked to my dad a lot, and he was a big inspiration for me to kind of go down that road. He worked in like sales, and he was very much a very business oriented kind of guy too. And so I think a lot of that rubbed off on me. And so when I went to college, I ended up studying economics, and I graduated top of my class in there for that. Got a great job in finance, and then I basically quit that to do the same exact, basically the same thing, which is content creation for video games. So it's like right
basically the same, yeah.
Basically the same thing. But no, like, so that was kind of like, I had done, some internships and a bunch of stuff all around that. But it was fun because like even when I was younger, like I was always interested in making some types of videos. Like me and my friends would just do some, we'd do we'd choreograph like a sword fighting thing, or we'd do some little skits or some stop motion stuff.
Were they doing it as well, or was this all you were the,
No,
recording
it was them too. Like we were just kind of, I think one of my friends had a video camera, and like one of my friends had like, he figured out how to do some like stop motion stuff. So like I would just kind of get involved with it, and I was really interested in it. I never really wanted to be like, I never wanted to do like drama or be on a stage or anything like that, which was also a little different. And that's kind of too like why even like creating content was a little bit more normal to me, I guess, because I am just by myself in this room. But yeah, like I kind of did a little bit of that. And, as I was going through it, I guess, I don't know. Eventually that was when I ended up moving up to the Pacific Northwest after I graduated college, and I got a job up here. I was working 50 hours a week doing that. And, yeah, I mean, overall, like I was kind of torn in a bunch of different directions, but I kind of just focused on what I like. I knew, okay, if I could just get through school and finish this, like I'm just going to do the best I can. So I don't have to do it once, get it done. And then like I've kind of, at least I'll have like a backup plan more or less when I was doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Was that for your own sanity, or was it like you needed to be like a responsible person? Or were you like, I really want to get this backup plan in place? Or you're just like, I need to be responsible?
I mean, it wasn't even like, to me, like that was just the plan. Like there was no ever me going full time creating content. Like that was never something that I was really, like, yeah, sure, I was working towards it. And even I made a little side income through it. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, that now I can fund doing my hobby and I can help justify it more. But to me, it was just like, hey, I get I've got to figure out something that I can do. And I was doing pretty good at it. I was interested in it overall. And, some of the stuff I really wasn't interested in, but I was like, well, if I just get it done, like, I don't know. I didn't want to switch majors. I wasn't even like 100% sure what I wanted to do. I just kind of kept going through the motions more or less and just trying it and figuring it out. And then, I was pretty interested in the job I was doing. I was doing good there too when I was working at it. Like I said, I was working in, is actually a company that manages investment management company. And I was working there, and like, I was doing great there, man. Like, and that was one of the things too that made it really hard to even quit my job eventually. It's just like I was doing so good there, and I was making really good improvements to everything. My boss was really happy. I had good coworkers; they were great, and that's what. It was good. It was just a lot of time, and it was hard to, I don't know, balance everything, I guess.
Did you find yourself at work thinking about creating content? Was that where your head was?
Yeah. I mean, that was like, even like before I really started creating content, it was like, I was just so, I don't know. I was thinking about a lot of different things. And like, even when I was in school, I was constantly thinking about, what was I going to be creating if there was ever any time between classes or anything. Like, that's what it was completely dedicated towards. And when I was working too, same thing. It's like, if I ever had a break or time of downtime or whatever, like I'm coming up with ideas, I'm writing stuff down, I'm listening to audiobooks, I'm listening to podcasts, just coming up with different ideas, different things that I can basically just keep driving forward when I do eventually, get back and have the time to do work on things.
That's sweet. Were any of your friends like that as well? Were they, thinking the same way, like in between class, I got to create content? Or is this where you started to kind of fork off and, you were really leaning into content way more than they were?
No, I think, I think a lot of this probably came at a cost of my social life in a lot of ways. I still tried to go out and do some things as, I was in school and as I was going through stuff, but, I definitely drifted away from a lot of my friends. A lot of my friends too, like that was a big reason why I even got into content in the first place, was like a lot of my friends just stopped playing video games. They just weren't even interested in it as we got into college. And so like I was just looking for friends and other people that were still as into it as me. Like, I don't remember if I even told this story ever, but I remember like I was playing Call of Duty in my dorm room, and we had it like in the main living room area. And I was so like, I loved the game. I loved playing it, and I loved trolling people in it, and like, just getting reactions, which is a lot of what I've done even going into the future. But like, I remember this guy was just being a real dick to other people in the games. And so I started calling him out, and like, I was egging him on, and like, kind of just nothing bad. And that's, but I was just kind of drawing him out and like making him he got really pissed too after that. And I was just kind of joking around, but he got really pissed. But my friends at the time were literally recording me, and they're like, you look like, they're basically making fun of me because I looked like such a dumbass, like yelling at because I was like literally a gamer yelling at the TV, even though I was but so it was like, nobody really, like, people don't really understand that, but there is a group of people online that are gamers that would think it's really funny. And that's what eventually, like, I kind of found and I created that way from. But yeah, like,
That's super cool. It's that subtle little moment, where they egged you on to do something, and that, has a kind of crazy outsized impact on.
Yeah. And it's funny that I even like, because I felt a little I felt embarrassed afterwards, because like, they just thought it was so lame. But I was like, how, to me, I was like, dude, that was so funny. Like, I was dying. Like, I thought everybody was, I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. I wish I had recorded it even, because I thought it was great. But yeah, and so yeah.
I love it. That's so funny. Anyway, switching a little bit, you touched on that you started creating videos on YouTube. Why did you first start choosing YouTube, and like how did you come across it?
Well, I don't know if it was just, I think that was really the only, it was like 2011. I was probably like 2010 when I first started seeing some of the content that was out there. And I remember like that was me looking for games, looking for like other people that were into the games. And that was like, I would watch these videos of people giving tips about the game. And I was like, oh, these people are insane. I couldn't believe how good some of the people were at the game. And like people were getting like 100 kill games and whatnot. And one of my friends even told me, because I got a 100 kill game and I was telling him about it, he's like, man, you should upload that. And then I even thought like, maybe I should do some of this stuff, like even myself. But I mean, I was looking at content online. I just loved the community too. Like I was reading all these or watching all these videos, commenting, and like I would comment, but I wanted to be more involved in that. And I too wanted to have people that like I could play with, that I could get some games with, get some lobbies with, and like have just some more friends to talk about the game with. Like, there's a new Call of Duty coming out, and I was super excited about it, but I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. And I wanted to have like those conversations. Sure, I'm listening to a lot of stuff, but I wanted to talk too. And that was kind of what inspired me to do it. And YouTube was really just the platform that people were on. Now there's tons of different options and things, and there probably wasn't even more then too. That was when like Twitch had kind of switched over, and that was a whole thing as well. But yeah, that was why I had started on YouTube, because I was watching a lot of creators there, and I wanted to get involved there. And really, like, there's no way that I could do anything. Like I had a small little laptop. It was actually like a MacBook Air, which was not designed for editing video at all. So I remember I'd sit there, I'd open my laptop and record. I had like 10 minutes at the most to record my voice talking before the fan started kicking in, because it was overheating, just recording a file, an audio file. And then I'd have to put the laptop down. I'd write out some more stuff of what I wanted to talk about, or come up with some ideas, or play the game. And then I would go back and start to do it again, and record my voice some more. And I had a ton of terrible takes, and it was all, I mean, even looking back now, even when I was happy with, it's like, it's all very bad.
I love that. It's the thing. It's scrappy, right? When you're first starting out, it's super scrappy.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was people that, I mean, were way better quality, way better everything at the time. And it's like, you look back, oh, that was so long ago. Of course it's going to be awesome. But I looked back and I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to get to that. This guy's there at 100,000, 200, 500,000 subscribers. Like, there's no way I'm ever getting to that. But, here I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. When did you start using other platforms, like switching, into live streaming and thinking about live streaming?
Yeah, so I started to do live stream basically as soon as I could. Like I saw people starting to do it. I thought it was really interesting, and so I wanted to get involved with it and try it. So I actually started. I think the first stream I did was in 2012, and it was terrible, but it was on YouTube, and so I was starting there, and I would do it every once in a while, and it was really something that was cool to kind of, hang out with the people that were interested in my videos, and I could just kind of talk about those, and again, like have this conversation that normally I wouldn't be able to. Um, and then it was real time too with anybody that would tune in. I didn't really have that many people that would tune in, but even just getting a couple people in the games with me was like, to me, it was incredible. It was a ton of fun. But after that, I've started to branch out, and as I kept working on videos, working on content, I ended up streaming on Twitch as well, and trying to drive my audience over there, and ended up doing a partnership with them for 2 years, where after about a year or so, it really wasn't getting too much traction as I was trying to stream and trying to do stuff on it. And so I started to branch out and try YouTube again. I tried doing a bunch of different things after that. Ultimately, I ended up canceling my Twitch partnership because I wasn't actually 100% sure how it was working. People had told me, oh, you can't stream on other platforms if you have a partnership there. And I tried reading the contract, and I tried figuring some of the stuff out, but it was like, it was a mess.
It's the Wild
so I was just
West.
like, you know what? I'm just gonna play it safe. I'm just gonna cancel it, or I'm just gonna figure out what I want to do from there. Maybe I try and redo it in the future, but like I wanted to try other things. Like, YouTube to me seemed like, and I actually remember seeing this. I looked back at one of my videos recently and I actually heard myself say it, but I was like, I want to make YouTube gaming a thing, because like YouTube was they were really trying to get into the streaming game years back. And I think it was like around when Battlefield 1 was coming out, or maybe a bit before that. And I was doing a lot of streams, especially when anything new came out. I was doing a lot of streams around that, and that was incredible. Like that was some of the best stuff, especially on YouTube for streaming. It was super relevant stuff because people would search it, and it was like at the top of the search results, because again, YouTube's like trying to get into the thing, trying to get into streaming, so they're pushing that a little bit more. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna try this. And I was like, I'm gonna try and do this and try and be a revolutionizer on this. And it kind of worked, but there was a lot of drawbacks. And I think I still even see this to a certain extent, where like, you stream on YouTube, and then it maybe doesn't perform as well as your videos in terms of likes. And then it kind of hurts your next video that you publish, and that's something that's like kind of theoretical. You don't really know what's working with the algorithm or not really, but like that was something I tested for a while. And then I tried branching out, even streaming to all the platforms at the same time. And I ended up doing this for quite a while. I would do like every Saturday. I added Mixer to it, because that was when that started to come out. I also was streaming to Facebook at the same time as well. And so I would branch out to all of them. I also was trying to do some individual streams. I would test that. And then I would also test, okay, well, what if I just did a 30-minute live stream on Facebook, a 30-minute live stream on YouTube, and like just kind of broke it up and did individual ones like that as well.
Like a master experimentation. I like how methodical you were in, I will try this platform, I'll try that platform, I'll try this platform. Were you always so strategic, or was like a certain time that you just went, no, I need to get, more serious about what I'm doing? Like, how did that?
Yeah, I think like the biggest thing for me was, it really was just kind of starting like, hey, I wanted to talk about some of the games. I wanted to talk about I wanted to create some content. I created some content, and then, I had this content up, and there were some people that were interested. So I was trying to find ways to kind of get some more people to see it. And while I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I get more people to see it? It was kind of like, okay, well, I got to create content that more people really want to see. And it was kind of a mix between that and just trying to get it out there as well. And so I came up with a couple like more specific series, especially like around Call of Duty. Initially, one of my first really big, like I had a bunch of failed series, but one of my better initial ones was And We Are Live, where I'd go into these games and cast them like it was an NFL football match, but in just like a random Call of Duty game, or like, more like an esports, but most people didn't even know what esports was, like competitive Call of Duty. Yeah. And I kind of mixed that into just random public games, and people would react and be like, what are you doing? What are you yelling about? Because I do like a full like narrator voice and be like, he's going for the bomb plant, whatever. And it was really fun. And so I got that shared into a couple communities and stuff. But it was like around that time when I was like, I did a few videos and I thought it was fun, but I wanted it. I don't know what the drive was, but like I really wanted to get more people to see it and to grow things. And so I did get way more strategic. Like everything was in a playlist, everything was created in that front. It was the same thing, and then especially like once I'm like 2 years into it, then I'm like, okay, I really got to start figuring some more stuff out, because I just saw it as so promising. And like, I'm seeing all these other people explode. Like so many people are passing me up. And I'm like, how am I going to figure some of this stuff out too? And so that was like, that was me like creating different ways and really like I spent a lot of time trying to figure out like, okay, well, I'm coming up with more series. I'm creating different ideas. I'm trying out live streaming. I'm trying out live streaming in long form, short form, like what really works, because I knew like I was creating content that I felt like I loved. And that's something that like I've always really been trying to do. Even like looking back at some of my first like 20 videos. One of my videos I was talking about it was like, I wanted to create the content that I wanted to see. So it's content that I really love. Like I really love being able to, whatever I was talking about, like it was something I was really interested in. And that was kind of what helped drive it. But that was what drove me to experiment and to try and figure some of these things out, because I'm like, well, I was sitting with a few viewers on Twitch and I felt like my content was great, but it's like, how do I get more people to see it? And so that was like, okay, well, I can't keep spending my time on this. So that was why I was like, all right, I'm just going to switch over. I'm going to start doing YouTube instead and see if I can figure some stuff out there. And that was really great for me, especially around that time. Like I said, they're kind of boosts. Like they're trying to figure out some of the algorithm in the first place. So I was just really looking for opportunities. And there was no like, hey, this is what you should be doing. It was like, you got to kind of just try it and figure it out. It's the same thing when I first started streaming on Facebook. Everybody that I talked to said, what are you doing? Even today, I did my first stream 3.5 years ago. People are still like, wait, what? But like you could imagine for the first 9 months of that was just straight up, what?
Yeah, I remember seeing, you could barely go live on your phone, but you were like, no, I'm gonna go on this ride with Facebook. You were the first early adopter on the platform.
Yeah. And that was just like, I had done, and this is again, like going back to kind of like figuring some stuff out. Like I had these videos that I loved that were doing good in a bunch of different places. And one of those places that I thought would be really good, well, there was I saw so many people were posting videos to Facebook of all this gaming content, but nobody's posting it themselves. The biggest thing is you couldn't make ad revenue at the time. There is some ways to do it now. It's still not fully rolled out as deep as like something like YouTube, but some of my videos had gone viral there. And so I was like, I gotta figure this out. This isn't potential. This was like 4 or 5 years ago or something. And so like I had a Facebook page, but I didn't really use it. And so I just started straight up uploading the same videos that I was doing for YouTube. I was just repurposing it, uploading it for Facebook. And some of them were just doing insane. Like because the biggest difference was that everybody was like, they had friends there. Even if it was just a couple friends, people were more connected. So they would send it in Messenger, or they would tag their friend in the comments, similar to something like Instagram or Twitter, right? But they didn't have that same feature on YouTube. So this content that like I love, I think is good, is going out, but it's not getting seen by anybody. And when I put it here, now people are able to tag and like start figuring stuff. And so it was like, wow, some of those videos blew up. And so I was like, well, we could do the same thing with streaming. And like this is just a completely, nobody even knew what streaming was on Facebook. A lot of people on Facebook, some people did, but a lot of people are really casual, much more casual than from what I've experienced on Twitch or YouTube. And it's hard to even get those guys to even come over. Like to me, it really is a completely different audience on my Facebook audience than it is on my YouTube. And I love them both for different reasons. And they both love different types of content too, which is it's also been hard over the last, I've been doing this for like 8 years now. So many people know my content from so many different places, and they have different expectations of what they want to see from me that I'm always torn into a bunch of different directions as well.
One of the things you touched on is like you started, being really intentional and strategizing and thinking about eyeballs coming into your content.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that when that started happening, that was you finding your groove? Would you say you're not really you're always trying to find your groove? Like what does being in flow or like in your groove mean to you?
Yeah. I think I think I've always been in some type of groove with the content. There's definitely times where I feel more out of it, especially like, you see views go down and it's like, well, what the heck am I doing wrong or different or whatever it is? Of course, there's a lot of stuff that's like, I might just be there's a lot of seasonal stuff as well as I've experienced, but um I think the biggest way that I guess I just found my groove by just not stopping, honestly. Like when I started creating content in 2011, the longest that I've gone since then without doing some type of content is 7 days at the most. And that only happened once, maybe two times. So to me, it's like I am just because I'm perpetually coming up with stuff and doing stuff and looking at what I'm doing, it's like I can kind of continue to see what is working and what is not working and then focusing on the areas that are working. Sometimes I go against the grain of what is working too. And, sometimes that's worked okay. Sometimes it hasn't. Um, but like at a certain point, like it's been really beneficial for me to make some of those changes that I have. And what I mean by that is like, every few months I'll look back at, okay, well, what has really been working? Like what direction should I go down more of? A big part of that was even like my top plays series. Like I was doing all these I started by doing it in a bunch of different games. And then I ultimately kept narrowing down which games were doing better. Like if I did content on them, which of those videos were doing better. And then also like, where was I getting the most submissions from games from? And 320 episodes later, now the majority of the episodes are Rainbow Six Siege because that's just way more interesting to people. People like that a lot better. The format is great. The ranked format, like everything is really awesome about it. And so that's where it's really zeroed in on. But I'd love to get back to doing even more clips on that. And even the same front of like content or streaming more so, right? Like I was doing a bunch of Battlefield streams and content around that. And I started doing battle royales, and those are just so much more gripping in terms of live streaming and keeping people engaged for that. Once I'm 10 minutes into a game, 30 minutes into a game deep, now there's only like 10 people left in the game. People want to see how's this going to end. Last person standing, there's only 10 people left. People were staying there for those last few minutes, whereas people don't care if you win in Battlefield or not. They're just kind of, they were just hanging out watching whatever it was. It was so much more engaging that it was like, and it was for me too, obviously. Like my heart was pounding out of my chest because I was terrible at it. I kept losing every single time. So for me to get my first win, and that was like, even though I kept losing, I was still like, I was so close. I was so close. And like, that was something it was really gripping. And even though like I'm not the best, like, I made it a super entertaining, fun story. And I think that's what people liked going through that journey with me on it. And so that was a huge shift where I had been playing respawn shooters for all of my years. And now I'm like only battle royales. So yeah, it's interesting.
What was, when you first, obviously you've been doing it for a while now, right? And when you got your first paycheck, what was that? Yeah. Like you were the finance guy. So I'm thinking maybe you put it in an investment account, savings account, but what did you really spend on? Like, did you spend the money or were you like, no, I'm taking a risk here. I got to save up.
Yeah, this was asked me recently too. It was like, and I was trying to think back for it. And I think the big, like, because I had to have $100 in the like pool before you can withdraw it. So I had been making like $5, $10, $10. And then eventually I was able to pull it out. And I think the first thing that I got, all I did was reinvest it. I mean, the only thing to me was like, oh, I'm making a couple bucks. So I was like, okay, now I can put some of that back into what, like, I've got a self-sufficient hobby here.
I love, you know what I mean? The like finance guys coming out.
I could get like the next Call of Duty. I could get the next DLC, and I could help to start justifying some of these purchases. And like, even just my own mentality of me spending more time in games and I guess really creating content, because I spent a lot less time playing video games once I started doing all of this. Because I was working on a lot of the content creation side of it, but I could justify myself doing that more, like to my own self as like a college kid who's, playing video games still. Like this was me to help justifying me getting the new computer that I eventually got was 100% because of the funds that I had done. I also even I tried to do like a little even business around, like I got some bracelets early on. I had like a few hundred subscribers. And so I sold them for a few bucks and I had to ship them. I learned it was not worth it. Like I made like $200 from it and I was like ecstatic, but it took me so much time to figure out all the logistics and get everything. And so it was interesting, but a couple people still have those, and it's pretty special. It's cool.
Special limited edition there. Those will be on eBay in the secondhand market or something. What about an average day for StoneMountain64? Like, what does it look like? You've got all this content you're pumping out all the time. Like, when you wake up, what does it look like?
Yeah, I mean, well, when I was like when I was in school, it was me between classes every night, and then really turned into even every Sunday as well, was purely dedicated to doing those top plays or something. Like my entire Sunday I just kind of dedicated to getting ahead. Basically, it was kind of like how I kind of thought about it. And I would do that Friday night too. Most Friday nights, most Saturday, some Saturdays I tried to like give myself one day to kind of relax and figure stuff out. But that was the same thing. Like even when I graduated and I was working full time, it was 50 hours a week. I'd come home, have some dinner, maybe do some stuff for an hour or two. And then Thursday night was kind of like my scheduled live stream night. Eventually I had it also Saturday morning was my scheduled live stream night or morning. So like I would always consistently stream at those times, but then I could work on a bunch of other videos and a bunch of other things to keep on producing even while I was working, even while I was doing other things. And I'd schedule content and make sure that I had some stuff going up. And I would try and do at least 3 to 4 things per week. Nowadays, though, I've been doing this full time for a long time and been managing a lot. But for me, like I'm up at 6, 7 o'clock typically. I try and schedule it around my wife's schedule as well. So I kind of keep myself within the means of like, 9 to 5 more or less. So I try and keep it within that window. Of course, it's kind of impossible with this job, but she helps to kind of keep me regulated on some of that. So anyways, like I'll be up 6, 7. Typically I'm working on emails, just like any of the back end stuff. A lot of it now too, I do have people that I'm working with. So I have systems, I have agents, I have editors. And so it's a lot of just even working with them and figuring things out, making sure they're on the right path, making sure that we're continuing on with things. And so some of it's kind of more managerial now, but then I'll start up my stream at noon Pacific and stream from noon to 4 or 5 o'clock, depending on how the stream's going, depending on how viewership's going, content's going. Maybe I'll let it run a little longer. Sometimes I'll just end it if I got a good game or whatever it is. And then I'll upload the content to the editors around 5. And then I kind of just try and stop from there. Go through any of the content. If I got some clips I want to post, if there's anything that I want to, just start planning out any new projects I want to work on, figure a lot of that stuff out, and then try and take some of the evening off. But there's always stuff that'll pop up, or I'll try and engage on socials, or do whatever after that.
Yeah, definitely. I can empathize with the wife keeping you on track, making sure you're not burning the candle too much.
It's helpful.
Yes. What do you think the most like vital skill that a creator could possibly have? If a creator was going to go today, like make sure you're indexing on this skill.
There's a couple things that I've talked about whenever I am asked this, and I think there's 2 big things that I think it's pretty universal too. I think a lot of people would agree with, but I think one of the biggest things is consistency. And I think a lot of the consistency leads from passion, which is the other interesting thing. And, if you look at like entrepreneur stuff, there's kind of, it'll come down to a lot of those things often. But what I'll kind of expand on it even a bit is like, if I didn't keep up doing what I was doing back in when I was first figuring out, or even like starting to stream on Facebook, or even starting to stream on YouTube, or any of the things that I've done that didn't work at first, my series of YOLO, which a lot of people know me from, of going into these random games and pretending to be this military soldier and going comms positive 1-2 Bravo. The reason they see that is, well, they didn't see that, and people didn't start sharing that or seeing that until episode 10. Like it was a lot of and by the way, I was on episode 20 at the time when people they found episode 10 and people really liked that one. And that one started to blow up, and then people started to find all my other stuff. And that was the beautiful thing, is like I already had all these playlists. I had all this content in place. because I had been consistently doing stuff for so long, like now when people see my content, it's not just like, oh, this guy made a funny video. Let's see what's the next video from some other person. It's like, I mean, if they want, because some people do look into it and it's like, whoa, this guy's got a massive amount of stuff and he's still creating new stuff. And so now there's like, they know there's something coming in the future, right? But like, I wouldn't have even been willing to do that if it wasn't something I was passionate about, because it wasn't something that like, it's not an immediate thing, right? Like it took me a long time to figure out even where I was going with some of these things. That's how it is for a lot of people. Some people do hit it really, they hit something really quick and start to get some traction off it. That's awesome. Double down on it if you can. But like, and I saw a ton of people do that. And even people started way after me, got way quicker traction and just started taking off with whatever. But I just really loved I was just super interested in doing this. And I think that helped as well with me even figuring out what I wanted to do and then just keeping up with it too. Because there's a lot of times when things are going awesome, things are going great, everybody's got your back on it and it's dope. But like, you know, there are 100% downtimes for it too. And like, I've been down many times, whether that's from, you know, seeing number growth, decrease or decline or whatever it is. But it's always just kind of keeping up with creating new stuff and coming up with new ways to do it.
Yeah, this feels very similar to the entrepreneur's journey. It can be a lonely one, and really making sure that you ride the highs and the lows and really appreciate the good times.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. And like in this, it really is like you just do so much stuff because you are the creator. It's like having an entire TV network, but just by yourself, or like a movie production company, everything. Like you're doing the business part of it. Like for years, going through all of my emails and working with companies and trying to come up with partnerships or sponsorships. Now I have somebody that helps me with a lot of that too, which has been an incredible load off my shoulders. But like, that's what has continued. Like that's every step. Once it got to a certain point, then it's okay. What moves do I make to now keep on exponentially going with all of it?
Yeah, so after all of that, what's next? What's next for StoneMountain64?
Yeah, I mean, well, the big thing right now that I'm working on, obviously pipeline. That's been huge for us, and like, us trying to put something together and helping streamers, helping creators. Like, I get so many people that ask me questions every day, and it's like, kind of how do I actually do something? It's like, and I'm trying to figure it out even today. Like, what else can I do? But that's a big thing. But I think for like my overall content too is obviously a huge focus. I think the big thing for me is like, I really did fall in love with live streaming. It's been something that like, I think too, it kind of helps that I do have a much, like I keep myself very balanced in terms of how many hours that I do it. So I always want to do more of it. Like I don't just stay on for the sake of staying on a lot of times, which is something that like I'm actually considering for 2020. And like, maybe it is me live streaming even more. I'm kind of like, I always want to do more. So that might be what it is. But I'm constantly trying to find, like, I think right now too, it's like figuring out, I'm watching like a ninja make all of these insane moves in streaming, and like starting to get involved in some movies. He's starting to get involved in, I mean, he's got tons of great partnerships and things. And he's really blazing the way in terms of live streaming, which is, it's incredible to see. And, whether, you like his content or you don't, like, what he's doing is pretty revolutionary. And like the mistakes that he's making too are like, okay, well, I'm not going to try and make people floss at Times Square if I ever wind up there. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's, I think it's very, very bold of what he's doing in a lot of ways. And so it's kind of trying to figure out, how can I keep trying to pave the way for content creation as well. And that's kind of what's always in the back of my mind. But at the same time, it's also hard to think about a lot of that stuff because it really is so much day to day of like, I got to stream every day too. Like I got to create the content. I got to figure out everything that I'm doing to, keep the audience that I have in the first place, as well as like, okay, well, what's my next move? Like I want to keep growing as a content creator. I want to keep, finding more ways to entertain everybody and, have a great community, have great stuff going on.
So more of the same, and then shooting for the stars in 2020.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of, I feel like that's always what I'm trying to do. But like, just yeah, just figuring that out.
Cool. I love it. I love it. So where can anyone find you if they want to go find you after this podcast? They want to find out where you are. What's the best place to see StoneMountain64 online?
The best place is honestly my Facebook page. I know a lot of people aren't quite as into Facebook, even if you are on Twitch or YouTube or whatever, but we're trying to change the platform and have it be our own little dope place on the internet. It's kind of how I like to think about it. And if you're really not into that too, check me out on YouTube, youtube.com/StoneMountain64 as well. And you can even catch some of the streams and stuff if you don't want to watch it there.
Sweet. Well, everyone, StoneMountain64 on pretty much every platform. David, thank you so much. This was absolutely an honor to get to interview you and go deeper on your journey as a streamer. I know folks can absolutely love this. Wish you all the best, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Catch you, man.
Thanks, man.
Bye.